G'day everybody, Max right here with another video. Today we're going to go back to the financial scape. We're going to talk about wealth preservation, wealth creation during this time. And we've got head-to-head the ideas of two people. One, Peter Schiff, which I've talked about before, but I'm going to add a little bit to it as I've come to understand his position a little clearer. And also Brent Johnson, someone I haven't mentioned yet, but someone who's talked about what he calls the US dollar milkshake theory. It's all over YouTube. You can check it out. I'm going to explain it here for you in a minute. And we'll talk about the contrast between these two. And this is kind of a follow-on video from one I did about 6 or 7 videos ago. It was Peter Schiff versus Mike Maloney versus Harry Dent. We compared the 3 experts about how they thought this crisis was going to play out financially. So we're going to add Brent Johnson into the mix, see where he stands. And of course, I'll throw in my 2 cents about what's going on there. So first of all, let's start with Brent Johnson, and I'll try my best to convey the US dollar milkshake theory to you. So it was originally, he came up with the name after watching, I think it was a documentary about an oil tycoon who was contemplating buying the land next door to them and to get their oil. And then it was too high a price, and he said, screw it, I'm just going to drill deeper and suck out the oil underneath. Kind of like drinking somebody else's milkshake through a long straw. And so the concept was the rancher, the oil tycoon, was going to be sucking out all of the oil to somewhere else. So that's where it named from. That's going to help us understand it moving forward. The concept is this. As we go into this crisis, we see the Fed printing trillions and trillions of dollars. What's sometimes not as well known, especially by Americans, is that all of the other central banks and governments of the world are doing the exact same thing. They're printing as much money and just as much money proportionally, sometimes more in their own currencies. So again, we go back to this concept of this uselessness of comparing one fiat currency to the other. US dollar versus the yuan versus the euro, who cares? They're all trash. What Brent Johnson is saying is that because of the incredible importance of the US dollar as the global reserve currency, because there is so much demand for it every time there's trade and international, every time there's international trade, you need to go through US dollars. So that creates a tremendous demand for US dollars. But as global demand slows down, the US dollar may get hurt, but nowhere near as much as other currencies which are just not needed. And the perceived strength will suck up all of the currencies that are being printed, meaning you have all these different currencies being printed, but when they're printed, what are the speculators, the investors in those other countries, what do they want to do? They want to get in a safe haven asset. And he believes that's going to force lots of people buying into the US dollar, creating that strength. It's the US dollar will be drinking everybody else's milkshake through that long straw via its perceived strength. So that's Brent Johnson's US dollar theory. I hope I did a good job of explaining it. I want to get now to, let's compare that. Sorry, before I leave that, I will say that is consistent with Mike Maloney's belief of an initial deflation followed by an inflation. Also, by the way, Brent Johnson, I do believe, thinks the same thing, that sometime, maybe 18 months, 2 years, 3 years from now, we will see a reversal in US dollar lose strength as the tide goes out, and we realize that when the tide goes out, who's swimming without any clothes on. People will realize that the US dollar is weak and fundamentally broken, and the US is in big trouble, both in a societal way, but also a financial way. But he thinks that that's going to be about 2 to 3 years out or more. Again, consistent with Mike Maloney. Again, consistent with my belief too. Let's compare that now to Peter Schiff. So Peter Schiff, kind of everyone agrees that eventually the US dollar will go into a severe high inflation, if not hyperinflation, will be destroyed and will eventually lose its reserve currency status. Peter Schiff is just of the belief, he's very concerned that there will be a shock to the system, maybe a secret meeting, maybe at Davos, maybe at G8, maybe at the G20, maybe just a phone call amongst world leaders. And they will get together in unison, in secret, and create a new monetary order to replace this old and broken one. You can bet your bottom dollar it's not going to be advantageous to us, as in the normal citizens, but it may be advantageous to the elites the world over. And so Peter Schiff thinks that that's going to happen suddenly, possibly secretively, and without any warning whatsoever, and at which point the US dollar will be revalued drastically, instantaneously. Not a slow system, which is what Mike Maloney, Brent Johnson, and myself happen to believe. Now, I wanted to say Peter Schiff's position because I think the position has merit. It's definitely something you need to hear. I don't think we're that close to it, and I don't think it's going to happen relatively soon. But when it does happen, it wouldn't at all surprise me to think that it goes down exactly the same way that Peter Schiff says it's going to go down. Meaning it will happen in secret, it will happen without warning, and there'll be a very rapid, instantaneous revaluation of the US dollar down, and there will be no time to get out. It will cause stock market panic, it will cause a massive devaluation of the US dollar, and a lot of follow-on effects that go from that, and there will be no time to get out. So Peter Schiff is just kind of like, agrees with everybody else in terms of where it's going to happen, and he's just taken the skate to where the puck is going to be principle. He's just, I believe the US dollar is going to get smashed, it's going to lose its reserve currency status of the world. I'm just going to go to where I know that happens because I'm not 100% sure of the path that's going to happen. I have a very clear concern that it's going to happen quickly, without warning, and there won't be time to try and time the market and get out. So I'm just going to go there now. I'm willing to concede. I may lose 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, but I don't want to get caught with my pants down, so I'm just going to go to where I know this puck will be eventually. Other people, myself, I think it's going to take a little bit longer to play out. Brent Johnson, Mike Maloney, it's going to take a little bit longer to play out. Now, maybe it's already playing out. So right now we have the price of gold at an all-time high in almost every fiat currency except the US dollar. Why? Because the US dollar is strong right now. It is the perceived safe haven, and it is soaking up all of the currency printing from other nations. It is where the US is drinking the other's milkshake. So the question is, which one's going to happen first? Which one's more accurate? Is it worth trying to stick with the US dollar and ride that out? You know, that's a risk tolerance thing that everybody has to describe. But I wanted to point out those two things, and I wanted to mention that Peter Schiff's position is certainly 100% valid. To clarify my position, a few months ago you saw me draw on the whiteboard a funnel, very much looked like this. The top of the funnel we had real estate, stock market, and a lot of other traditional highly leveraged assets. At some point, those bubbles will pop. There will be a flight to a narrower portion of the funnel, what I believe will be the US dollar. That's going to be the safe haven for a short term. People are going to cram into it, and you'll see the value of the dollar explode. But then, in some amount of time, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, maybe longer, we'll see that the frailties of the US dollar will come undone, and the rest of the world's resentment towards the US dollar being a reserve currency of the world, being able to get away with rampant money printing that the rest of the world is not being able to get away with, we will see that eventually people lose faith in the dollar and go down to a narrower part of the funnel to precious metals, gold and silver, and possibly Bitcoin at the same time. At that time, these are very, very small markets compared to the giant trillion, quadrillion dollar markets of real estate, stocks worldwide, into US currency and treasuries worldwide, into a very, very small part of the funnel, precious metals and probably Bitcoin, and those two will explode, go up ridiculous percentages to the moon. And then I believe eventually it will go down even smaller because you will see precious metals getting stolen, confiscated, whatever, a whole bunch of things. They simply offer no protection against tyrannical governments, whereas Bitcoin does, and that's its secret sauce. And eventually you will see all the wealth from this big giant funnel into what is today a slither of a slither of a slither of that proportion of wealth, and that the value of Bitcoin has to explode as all of this wealth flows into that one channel. So guys, I hope that helps and understands. You guys understand where my position is. Hopefully I presented Peter Schiff's position and Brent Johnson's position as well. And it's for you guys to decide who's right. How much of your wealth do you want to apportion to each different strategy? Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know what your strategy is. Let me know what you'd like to talk about next. Any questions? I'd love to hear them. Please go ahead and ask those questions below. I will get to them shortly. I'll also get that spreadsheet done quickly. And let me know if you want some commentary on some of the societal issues going on in the United States right now. It is very, very sad. For those foreigners, if you're watching from overseas, America is in a very, very tough situation. The institutions, the police forces, the mayoral positions, Congress positions, police chiefs and whatever else, all over the country have been taken over by radical leftists. And with glee, they are watching the country being destroyed. And it is for BLM and whatever else, the message, the slogan message, of Black Lives Matter. Of course, it's a sensible message. Everyone understands that. But just like the Patriot Act wasn't patriotic, and just like the Affordable Care Act wasn't affordable, these are just names, these are just labels. At its core, the rank and file don't understand this, at its core, BLM is a radical leftist organization designed to destroy the country. And it's not even that big a problem. What's the problem is the unison of the partnership with our institutions, the police forces, police officers kneeling, police chiefs abdicating, police chiefs telling officers to bend the knee, mayors, governors of states, bending the knee and just standing back, watching a radical Bolshevik revolution take place. That's the problem. And the third leg of the problem is you have social media, you have the media, and you have academia working in unison, hiding facts and creating narrative, tricking the rank and file into working for their own destruction. So let me know if you would like me to talk about that. If you have other people that have a contrary position, I'd love to have them on, love to interview them. Please put me in contact with them. Let me know if you'd like me to talking about that stuff or if you want me to stick to the financial. I enjoy talking about both. It's very hard for me to focus on the financial right now because who cares about being rich in a world where democracy, liberty, and the true American spirit of 100 years ago is no longer here. It's a world basically that is not worth living in, quite frankly. And even the people advocating it will very quickly understand that if they ever achieve their goals. So let me know what you want me to talk about more, and I will get you that spreadsheet soon. I've been a little bit busy, but I've got some time coming up over the next few days, and I will get that done. So make sure you go ahead and subscribe. Let me know what you'd like to talk about and ask any questions in the comments. I'll see you soon. Take care.